Hello, trading is closed on October 15th, 2014. I'm Jeff Tennant. Let's talk about the market. I'm going to start off by saying today was one of those days I had almost no time to look at it, and tomorrow doesn't look as if it's going to be too different. I still practice medicine full time. With that being said, let's see how our last predictions did. While I had these very optimistic targets, I had some reasons I'll go over later for expecting a very large move up at the open, and almost in passing I said if we gap under these lows, which I didn't think would happen, then the whole analysis was worthless. Well, we gapped under the lows, so the whole analysis didn't count for very much. Fortunately, when I'm wrong, it's pretty obvious even before the open almost every time. Let's look at today's MeJT signals and then review what the charts have to show. Early on, the software identified some failed targets from earlier in the year. We'll talk about later. We had a drop early on in the day. The thick yellow line, which printed early, said this was a price target that should be hit, and to anticipate resistance if it were hit. Even though we had a big drop, we hit the target later in the day and there was resistance over it. Later in the day we had a sell signal. One of the things which distinguishes MeJT sell signals from other sell signals is that a sell in MeJT does not mean you go online and enter an order to sell short. It means there is a price target at a lower price and anticipate support under it. In this case, the price target was quite close. It was hit immediately and there was support. MeJT targets are support resistance levels. We had a large range today, but the resistance and support levels I think were helpful. Well, now let's analyze what happened. All these targets look far out of reach, I know, but these targets in the middle 1800s looked far out of reach a week ago at this time, and they printed. We came close to a different MeJT target of 1818.48 minus on April 15th. From September of 2013 until October of 2014, a period of time in which the market spent most of it going straight up, we now have only 3 failed lower MeJT targets. That's 3 targets in 13 months. And we give several targets every day. I can't say when these higher targets will print, but I think they will. Well, this was quite a wild action today. We had a big drop. It couldn't hold any of the decline until close to the close. We actually traded over the early morning high, hard as that was to believe at some point. I'm going to go over why I thought we had a chance for a rally yesterday and why there is support at today's low. If you look at a daily chart, I've had this target of 1830-ish. We came pretty close to it. The target doesn't have to be hit exactly. It's a minimum target for the decline, and that was satisfied today. This is a weekly chart. This is the DeMark sell signal. This yellow line is the TDST line, and there is support for 1 bar under the line. So this is a MeJT support level on the weekly chart. This is a 78-minute chart. We have an old TDST line from a long time ago which held. We had a buy signal, but it's kind of iffy because there's a recycle. Sometimes the market just ignores the recycle. A recycle means you start the count over again. Sometimes the market doesn't realize what's happened. On a 30-minute chart, we have another signal to go long. Here's bar 13. The stop is on closing prices, and we haven't closed far under that bar. And on the 15-minute chart, we have a signal to go long right here, a buy, and here's an old TDST line. So we have DeMark buy signals and a support area. One of the things I like to do when we're dropping like this is to see if a low is a Fibonacci target of prior formations, prior consolidations. If you look at yesterday, we held here, and there was a Fibonacci relationship between this high and that low, and often that's enough. You may recall I called the top here at 1985.59 in July when we had a slightly higher high. I said it was a Trader Vic 2B top, means you go slightly over it in reverse. When we went higher in August, I said, whoops, maybe that was the top, and that was the 2B top. Go slightly higher in reverse. We went high again, being a stubborn person. I said maybe that was the top and that was the 2B top. With the advantage of hindsight, I think maybe this formation here, the whole formation was a top. This 2019.26 price was only about 1.5% higher than where I called it into the 5.5-year up market. For me, that's close enough. If this whole thing is a 2B top and we can find a Fibonacci relationship, this makes a reasonable call for a low. If you forget the 2B top and just look at this top, you'll see the Fibonacci relationship between these lows, 38.2%, and that high, and this low here. So at least it's plausible that this will hold. I don't think it'll hold forever, but it's pretty much the same formation we had yesterday when there was a Fibonacci relationship at this low, the target being met and an inability to close under recent lows. Being a stubborn soul, I'm going to say that if we have a gap under this low, it's big trouble. But if instead we have a gap over this high, this whole drop doesn't really count. Just as if we had a gap over this high yesterday, this whole decline didn't really count, and the possibility of a low here going higher remained a valid one. If we can have a gap up opening tomorrow, all this becomes an island reversal formation. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Longer term, I still think the high of the 5.5-year up move is in. I still think we're going much lower, but if this low holds, and particularly if this high is taken out, I think we have higher prices in front of us for the very short term. These targets should print at some time, far off as they look. And that's today's call.